Welcome to an episode of the Programmatic Digest podcast. We're walking today because we're trying to stay active. Well, I am. Dominique is cool. I'm walking for the both of us. But I have a special guest, Dominique Robinson. He is an integrated media planner at Luquire, and he's here to talk to us about how to build your strategy into your performance, or how to crack, what did you say, crack a strategy that works?
Yeah, how to crack a
So
strategy that works. Yep.
there you go. But before we get to this conversation, Dominic, can you please give us an introduction about who you are, what you do? Let me know if when you were 5 years old, you woke up one day and told your parents, like, you know what, I'm gonna be in programmatic and ad tech one day. And like, yeah, how did you land into this position? Tell us about you first.
So thanks for the introduction. My name is Dominique Robinson. I'm actually based in Louisville, Kentucky. I
Nice.
work for an ad agency that is in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I work full-time remote. But I'll go down into the office every once in a while for either team building activities or client work, things like that. But to answer your question on how I got into it, my mom was someone who was very active and trying to make sure I tried different opportunities and things like that. So when I was younger, she put me in this program where I ended up being a camp counselor, and we would take kids out to different events or different opportunities to learn about what they wanted to do for college or their careers. And it was an interesting time for me because I was actually a junior or a senior in high school myself and wasn't too sure of what I wanted to do. So one of the little trips that we took the kids on was to go to one of our local ad agencies in Louisville. And I went, checked it out, fell in love with the hustle and bustle of people just running in and out of offices and seeing all the campaign work and all the creatives talking to them, how much they loved it, all the strategists and things like that. So it was very eye-opening for me. And I said, oh, I could see myself
And
there.
this, wow, that's cool.
And then not too long later, I actually had some teachers at school who were kind of like, I don't know what you're planning on doing, but you seem to have a knack for marketing. And I
Yeah.
didn't really know what marketing was at the time, other than commercials. So dug into it from there, went off to school at WKU, which is Western Kentucky University, and
Mhm.
just declared under advertising and with a minor in graphic design. And the rest is history.
That is so cool. I always wanted to be in marketing as well because I saw my mom go, she was a director of marketing for airline company, excuse me. And she would travel once a month to go to the headquarters, which was in Brussels.
Hmm.
And she would have bangles, red lips, a little suitcase, briefcase, and the
Yeah.
big boards. And I used to look at him like, "God damn, marketing is so cool. It's dope." And that's how I wanted to be in marketing.
Yeah.
And then in the 2010s and 12s, when you go to college, it's like marketing is beyond that. It's like more social media.
Yeah.
And I did not want to do social. Well, I wanted to do social media. And I did find an internship, and I found out that I hated it. And I was like, oh, I
Mm.
definitely don't want to do organic social media. And so it pivoted accidentally into programmatic because I applied to this one agency for media buyer because I had some print experience.
Uh-huh.
And they called me back and said, nah, you're not qualified for this position. However, based on your resume, you're more focused on digital. Do you want to be a trader? It's the first hire we do in programmatic. It's our first time building this department. If you're down to learn, we're down to teach you. I said, cool.
Yeah.
And that's how it happened.
It actually sounds like we got into the industry around the same time because when I first started out, programmatic and all that was new. And I actually started at an affiliate news station here in
Oh,
Louisville, and
Lord.
they were
Yeah.
just building out their digital capabilities and things like that. So they didn't know much. I didn't know much coming into it, but we were all down together. So it was definitely one of those situations where you just do trial by fire to get it right.
And then back in the days, it was, I'm not going to say not as complicated, but I feel like it was a little bit lighter because we almost did it, but we did not know how the implication of programmatic buying at that time. And so I feel like it was easier. It's almost like it
I
was
might be dating
ignorant is
myself.
bliss.
Yeah, I might be dating myself, but streaming services weren't even a thing when I started. So
Oh, shucks. Wait, when
yeah.
did you start in the industry?
Probably around, shoot, 17, something like that, 2018.
Really?
Well, it wasn't as big like the
Oh,
CTV
no, no.
stream
ETV just boomed
that
because
like
of the
you
pandemic.
probably, I
That's
think
for sure.
Netflix was the only one at the time.
Oh gosh. Well, you're welcome. This is definitely space for you because most of us that are listening or watching this on YouTube, by the way, will tell you
Mhm.
they accidentally fell into this field. And there's only 1% of them that ever told me, oh, yeah, sure, I went to college and this teacher said I should be in programmatic. Most of us did not. And I like to ask this question because it's just to whoever is listening that maybe you just started in programmatic, whether you've been in a field for X amount of years, or you just graduated, or you just got started, like I said. It's okay. You can, most of the way we learn this industry or our jobs is still via our jobs. Would you agree?
100%. Yeah. On the job experience is definitely number one way to learn for me,
Yeah.
anyways. And most people, I believe, because there's not too many training courses on how to get into it or anything like that. You have to either work within a particular DSP or program and go from there.
And honestly, not a shameless plug, even though it's my own podcast, but that's one of the reasons why in 2019, when I started freelancing, so I started the podcast, then I started freelancing full time. And then 2 years later, I realized this exact problem. It's the only way to learn programmatic was via the DSP or the partner. And so I started recording. One podcast led to a LinkedIn Live that led into a whole course, an accelerator program. And in that program, that's when I was walking people through how to use a DSP, but also demystifying the ecosystem, what you should know. And then I have optimization live workshops where I'm in Excel showing them how to optimize or writing a report. And so if you're listening and you're interested, you can access the full library on the website. So check out the show notes. But let's get into today's conversation because I think it's so important. And there's a lot of cloudy perspective or cloudy opinions around integrated media plans. I am more on the programmatic side, on the buy side, working for agencies. I've learned search and social because of some certain position I had for agencies. But first of all, can you just clarify when people say integrated media planning, what does that mean for real?
Sure, sure. So, traditionally, there was a lot of separation between traditional media channels versus digital media channels versus social media channels. But an integrated media planner and strategist buyer pretty much has a hand on the lever for each of those pieces. So,
Mhm.
whether we're talking print, radio, social media, paid search, programmatic, CTV, streaming, touch it all. In terms of planning, you have to know everything about for broadcasts all the way down to CPMs for programmatic buying and strategies and planning for across the board. So it pretty much brings everything all together. Fortunately, I did start out on the digital side, which I would say is the more complicated side just because of all the options and different levers you can pull.
Really? I would
I
think
personally
the
think so.
opposite. I would think traditional is the most complicated thing, but I guess I don't know a lot about traditional. Maybe that's why.
Once you know it, it's pretty straightforward. You get your rates, media kits, things like that, and you put a plan together, and it pretty much runs according to what you would expect as long as you know what audience you're going for and what
Mhm.
publishers or placements you're going for. But in the digital space, it ebbs and flows so much just because one, the digital space is always changing. I think, as I mentioned,
Makes sense.
available,
Mm.
different targeting tactics change over time. You have to stay on top of these things constantly. So
Hmm.
from a strategy perspective, always looking at what the latest and greatest bright, shiny object is in the space, and then really trying to understand what that does for your clients, how you can integrate that into your account, what the pros and cons are of doing it. So, just because of that, I think it's a little bit more difficult. But the traditional side of things, definitely, there was a learning curve when I first started. So,
As naturally. And so tell me about a case where you had to really look at your media plan and say, well, this particular client is going to need X amount of percentage of budget going to this traditional media,
mhm.
and the rest will be digital, but we'll also try this and that. Like, how do you come up with that strategy? Maybe talk to me about that strategy mindset or maybe template, whatever you do. Because,
So,
sorry, a lot of the people I talk to are confused about the word strategy to start with. And then they throw strategy into the mix without really realizing, like, chill, at the end of the day, it's all about the client's objectives, but the consumer that we're trying to reach out to. Not so much about the technology, the sexy bells and whistle that comes with that media channel. Talk to us about the whole thing of strategy.
so typically how it works at an agency is you work cross-disciplinary. So there's other departments who will have that first port of contact with the client. They'll gather information to say, hey, what are your goals? What maybe are your budgets? Do you have an audience in mind? If not, do you want us to craft one for you?
Mhm.
So really just depending on what we get initially, it sets the frame to which we work in, right? So
Mhm.
if there isn't an audience, then we might work with our strategy team, and
Mhm.
strategy is used interchangeably. We do have a
Yeah,
team
yeah.
that actually goes out and understands what the trends are within different audiences. And then on our end, we understand what media channels those audiences are using. So what it looks like on our end is strategy and client engagement. They'll get together and they'll create a brief after speaking with the client, which will outline what markets they're interested in, who their audience is, what their budget is, some of those details. And they hand it off to us and they say, hey, all right, here's some money, here's some people we're trying to reach, here's the product, here
Mhm.
are our goals. Go
Yeah, yeah,
make it
yeah.
happen. At that
Okay.
point, it pretty much just falls onto you to decide what are we doing? Are we going
Mhm.
to do billboards? Are we going to do a CTV plan? Are we going to
Mm.
do programmatic advertising? Are we going to do direct publisher placements on Forbes or something like that? So
Mhm.
it really does vary by client. So I'll use an
Yeah.
example of one of my travel and tourism accounts. So
Mhm.
typically, with travel and tourism, your main goal or KPI is to get foot traffic, to
Mhm.
actually get heads and beds into their hotels and things like that. And we do have different systems that we use in place to track that. So, like a Dara or a Arrival List, these are all different travel
Oh, yeah, yeah,
tourism
yeah. Uh-huh.
like impact solutions that
Mhm.
really give you a sense of what the down funnel impact is of your marketing. But
Mhm.
when they come to us, they're like, hey, we have a budget and we're trying to reach, let's just say, people who are day trippers who just want to come to the city and spend maybe the weekend and then go back or a couple of days or something like that. So once we understand that, typically what we'll do is try to get a snapshot of what the day of the life of this consumer is. So
Oh, wow.
to our marketing research tools and we'll try to uncover, hey, so what does a typical day look like? Are they primarily on their phones during
Mhm.
the day? Are they unwinding after work by looking at their favorite streaming service? What is their favorite streaming
Mhm.
services? So
Mhm.
things of that nature. And really that acts as the guiding line between where you want to go. So we try to find channels that index highly for our target audience. So
Mhm.
that's where you start to get a sense of we need to have some billboards for high visibility within our
Mhm.
challenger markets. Just say, if we're still
Mhm.
talking travel and tourism, there's going to
Mhm.
be competitive nearby markets that people have the option to travel to. So we'll probably want to put up some billboards there to start to build awareness and show people what
Mhm.
looks what's so intriguing about your location. And
Right.
then we'll want to reach them when it's top of mind, right? I know that a lot of people see advertising and they're like, oh my gosh, is it listening to me
Yeah,
or is it
it's creepy. It's
following me
following
online?
me on the interweb. Yeah. And my family's
Exactly.
love to tell me this. Why y'all following us? I know the Alexa is listening to me. I'm speaking, she shouldn't, but I'm just saying,
Who
be
knows?
careful. Don't
But
talk too loud.
understanding what signals really matter to make it feel like it's timely, right? So if you're researching family vacations, things like that could be a signal that we're using to hone in on you as showing that you have an interest. And when we're talking about you, we're not saying you as an individual, just we understand that your device
The
is
behavior.
on
Yeah.
content that's related to travel. So that could be a signal you're within our target market, age range, interest, and geographical footprint that now is a good time to reach you because travel's top of mind. So
Mhm.
we do strategies like that. And also, usually when it comes down to travel, you have to see it to believe it. So
Mhm.
we firmly believe that you have to have a multi-faceted approach to video, to showing and what the experience is like and making sure that it really resonates with our audience. So those are just kind of the starting points. And I can get into the nitty-gritty about how we go into splitting up budgets accordingly and things, but that's kind of where we start out at.
So thank you. That makes a lot of sense. And now I only have 6 more questions to ask. But the first one is, can you just elaborate on when you say a day in the life of the consumer? Because I feel like this is so important for people to understand. I think as a trader, which I was for many blue moons, I even as a consultant, when we train people, I still gotta, I'm in the data with a trader, right? I know that most traders make those 2 mistakes, right? They don't understand the audience for real life. They
Mhm.
just don't understand the audience that we need to target, or they almost don't know how to reach the audience. So like, they don't know how to set up the audience. And the second one is a creative message, which tied in into this audience challenge because if you, it doesn't matter how great your strategy is, but if your message and the landing page is shitty, I
Yes.
don't know, I don't know, your RI decreased by X amount of percentage right away because
Yeah.
the message is just like, this is the perfect audience for you. The strategy is locked in, but the message is just not coming through, right? So one of the question I want maybe you to clarify on is, or topics is, when you say we index this to see how this media consumption index higher with this audience or vice versa, maybe what kind of tool do you use? What kind of question do you ask this tool? How do you bring it
Mhm.
back into a media plan, basically?
So we have this tool called Resonate that we use in
Okay.
particular.
Oh yeah.
And with this
Okay.
tool, you can go into the platform and you start to craft what your audience looks like. So you put in information like their age, what their interests are, what geographical location you're interested in targeting, and you to build this profile or this persona of your ideal customer. And the way that they operate is a combination of survey data and also like modeling and
Mm-hmm.
some AI driven sites, as well as like time census data and things like that. So that gives you a sense of scale, how many people there are within your target market. Uh, Two, what are they reporting for themselves that they're interested in? So the
Okay.
data is refreshed constantly. They're always doing the surveys and updating them. And they're building a model based off of the information that they're getting and then weighting it towards certain bits of information just depending on scale. So say if we're talking about likes to eat at restaurants, they might
Yeah.
have 1,000 people who reported on the survey, whether they do or don't, or how
Yeah.
frequently
Okay.
they go. And then they might weight it a little bit more. So all that factors into a chart that they produce that talks about different media habits across the core tenants, right? Like radio,
Mm-hmm.
podcasts, video streaming online versus CTV, OTT, who has
Yeah.
subscriptions to Netflix, things like that. So all of that information accumulates into a profile that'll show you my audience indexes. If 100 is pretty much the medium average, do they
Mm-hmm.
over index? Are they over
Mm-hmm.
100 to say they're super engaged in this platform? Or are
Mm.
they kind of the average to say some people are using it, but this isn't probably where most of our consumers are going to be? And everyone's media habits are different.
Right.
The websites I'm interested in is not the same thing as what you're interested in. The
Yeah.
shows I'm watching on Netflix are not the same ones you're watching, right? So,
Mm.
taking all this into account, we really have a philosophy of following eyeballs. So, we try to find as many
I like that.
com combinations to follow the eyeballs because where
Yeah.
they end up can go a lot of places. But I think that's one of the things that makes digital so interesting is that you can set it up in a way that you can be omni-channel in your approach to where you're on YouTube, we're on CTV, we're on internet as a whole. No matter what your particular habit is, we can meet you where you are and efficiently only serve inventory in places where our core audience is. So
Mm.
that's how we go about using that platform to start to craft what an everyday life looks like for somebody. If it's a
Mm-hmm.
who's also working, we understand that there's certain times in the day where she's going to be very busy, and maybe the mornings and the
Mm-hmm.
evenings are her time to herself, where
Mm-hmm.
she might take a minute to scroll or something
Mm.
like that. So we might,
I'm guilty. There is. Be on
yeah.
my
So
bed instead of
it's
reading
also
my Bible. I'll be like this. I know.
so we target those times, and we
Yeah.
try to make sure that every dollar is used efficiently and wisely. So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of how we start to build those profiles and get a sense of what the day in the life is like.
That's so cool. And I do want to elaborate a little bit for my junior level listeners and viewers that if whenever I do a optimization bootcamp, right, which is the example I gave earlier, I walk
Hmm.
them in an Excel sheet, manually how to optimize, how to pivot, how to get that data into an insight. And I always recommend when they get to the insight writing, like you got to write a little insight, a little something with this data that you're presenting to
Yeah.
your client and understand it. And I always say, look at all these tabs for the same ad group, identify one or two insight per those tabs. And the tabs sometimes is maybe the first tab is an ad group or the first report is an ad group performance. And then you have a data segment performance. And then you have the supply performance. And then you have the time of day of the reach, frequency, you name it, right? Creative. And so each of those reports, the same tactic, the same audience, pull an insight from it. Because now you're talking about that one audience and you build
Hmm.
that persona using post-campaign data at this point. You're talking about indexing with behaviors based on this is what we know of the consumer without interacting with our ads. What I'm recommending is that this is what we think we know about this consumer
Hmm.
after they interacted with our ads or the website based on the pixeling or the data, whatever. And
Yeah.
then I always tell them if there's a trends, and I would love your perspective. Hear me out. And then I tell them, well, if you are targeting moms who like chai tea, and her boys are going to soccer every Saturday, let's say, and she's playing on her phone or whatever. If they see that the data is telling them there's more conversion on mobile phone, on gaming specifically, let's say for the sake of example, is that something I can say, because I've told them to do that before, but I usually recommend to say, because we see that this data is converting highly on gaming specific inventory, and we have done this research that say that yes, female women between this age are gamers and index higher with this other thing. We should separate it into its own strategy at 20% of the budget and then test it this way with their own creative. Is that aligned with maybe what happens at the media plan side, which is before the campaign is launched? Because this is at the post, is the monthly report that I'm recommending to do that. And most traders don't take that extra step into reaching back out to a planner like yourself and say, hey, what do you recommend? Because this mom who like chai tea, soccer mom who like chai tea, are gaming. She's a gamer. What can you tell us? Dominique, is there anything I can add into the report? Maybe you have a partner. What can you tell me?
So I don't know if every agency or place does it like this, but as an integrated media supervisor at the agency I work for, we actually do the full frontal approach. So not only are we planning, but we're also doing the reporting as well. So coming up with those insights. So the way I
Oh,
look at it, you can start out with a theory, right? You're making
yeah,
an informed decision, this
hypothesis.
an informed theory, but you might have some past data that you can use to forecast outcomes. So let's say if I'm picking up a campaign that we ran last year. And to your point, it's like, what did we learn last year? We're seeing that mobile device data or mobile devices, we have way more hits or engagement there. So it's like, how much more that information of that are we seeing there versus across desktop? And if we're shifting there, is it because we're trying to convert more or are we in line with the strategy, right? Because if we just want to build awareness, we might still want to target things like CTV, which is going to be, the biggest TV screen in the home. We want big messaging, big branding. But if we're leaning more so into, let's just say, conversions, we want to see people actually ordering online for this chai tea or going into the
Okay.
store, then it might make more sense to target more of the mobile ads. So we're going to shift budget accordingly. And some of it is just testing, right? So it's like we were at this percentage, right? How about if we still have some bit of an awareness goal, let's say we want to uptick it by 10% to see if we can see an increase in sales that matches our budget increase. So ideally, what you would see or test out is that by leaning more into mobile ads, whether that's in-app or on the web, what we'll see is that people will, in the moment of their game interaction or whatever, they'll click on the ad, go to the website, maybe add to cart, maybe they'll purchase
Yeah.
immediately, or maybe they'll save it for later, and then we can retarget them to remind them to come back and finish their purchase, right? So we use all of that to make a decision about how much budget we're gonna lean into it, how does it change our strategy, and then we ultimately go out, run it, see if our theory is correct. Did we see that increase of sales that we wanted to? Are they taking the action that we wanted to? And if not, how can we pivot? And we don't necessarily have to wait till the end of the campaign to do that either. One thing that we ourselves is that we are nimble, we're optimizing, we're watching the campaign performance, and we're making adjustments as we see fit. So if we see maybe programmatic banner ads on website isn't doing well, but we're seeing that mobile in-app banners are where we do some kind of gamification thing where it's like if you click on this ad or whatever, you'll get extra tokens in your game or whatever, and they're actually clicking on it to convert. Then we say, oh, cool, let's do more of that. So whatever
Yeah.
lanes goes and ladders up into the strategy, and you just adjust from there. So that might look like pulling budget from some areas and shifting it into others. So this really, I look at it as like it's telling a story, right? If you're watching a Netflix series, each episode story is like the same thing, basically. We started off here, we saw this happen, we're making the change here, and now the story is telling us this. So just it's always learning, always paying attention, and always learning, really just and making informed decisions based on the data.
That's really cool. And it's really unheard of, at least on my end, that the media planner, at least, or the person who takes care of media plans also helps with reporting. I've usually heard a trader will have to go through that data or the campaign performance and then share those insights, like I said. But or even like an account manager get involved at that time. But it makes so much sense. You
And
planned
you
it.
know,
You told me what to run. I made these updates. You would want to see if that works, right?
and
It's
we
like,
actually use it as a unique selling position when we talk to our clients. Is like, hey, at some other places you might have a planner who only plans, but we are planners who buy, we're planners who sell, we're planners who do the reporting. We actually go all the way down to
like you know your
building
shit.
reconciliation. So the same person who's starting on your plan is the same person who's finishing it and coming back and telling you what they learned. So
Mm.
you don't have a lot of that disjointedness that you can get sometimes as you're playing telephone with, hey, do this. And someone else is trying to execute off your plan, and then you're there working downstream to report back on it from somebody else and things like that. You get the full picture when you take a full approach like we do.
Makes a lot of sense. It should be this way because that's why I recommend when you're writing your insight report, that little piece, that little paragraph piece that you add next to that sexy graph into that slide or whatever, is that you need to tie it back to what we sold to the client. Because
Yep.
at this point, the client, they forgot what the plan looks like, how much they're
100%.
spending, some of them. You have to be able to bring it back together. And so
Yeah.
now you're telling them this data that we've spent 30 days running, we've
Mhm.
optimized X amount of time. This is what we know based on that. We started with this theory or this hypothesis. Now let's try something else because now the data is confirming what we tested or what we said to test, plus some. Or the data confirmed that this was not it. However, we substitute, we adjusted with maybe it was an NBCU, maybe it was something else. I don't know. No shade to NBCU. I'm just using y'all as an example. Please don't DM me later on LinkedIn. But like, maybe there's a connection there that can happen. But most of the traders I talk to, and I say that with a lot of honor and respect, they don't take that extra step. First of all, there's a lot of got to get this out of the way. Let's do it real quickly. But it makes a big difference into keeping the money in house,
Yeah.
into keeping that business in house, because there's a lot of us, and I'm in sales now for Media Math and Infillion platform. There's a lot of us calling on your clients to let them know that we do it better. And most of the time we do it better, no shade. But like, this is how you keep the business in-house. You prove not only are we doing what we said, we've learned so much more. We failed here, and this is what we want to do more of. And this is why. But it's not something that's talked about a lot. And now we have the whole conversation about AI, where AI does some of those consumer-based research planning. And there's two questions I want to ask you about. Is do you leverage some type of AI tool, whether it's you professionally in your day-to-day, or like maybe if you don't want to answer on behalf of Luquire, but is ChatGPT helping you do some things and not, or what not?
Yes, we
Or
do
Grok
chat
the other
GPT quite a bit. So I'm gonna have to take one quick pause and I will be right back.
guy.
All right. Yes, we do use ChatGPT quite a bit.
Okay.
And really, ChatGPT, it's still in that phase where you can bounce ideas off of. I
Yeah,
recommend, especially to some of our junior team members, that you don't rely on it to start your plan. You use it to help solidify or craft ideas.
that's good.
Think through it first on your
Mm-hmm,
own and then
mm-hmm.
go to ChatGPT and say, hey, so you might upload an Excel into it.
Yeah.
Based on this data, what are we seeing here? And see if it validates your idea or if it
Mm-hmm.
brings a new idea to the table. And we usually use it mostly for reporting because, like you said, pulling those insights is so pivotal for maintaining client relationships. And you just want to make sure this is what I'm seeing from the data. Let me see if my thought process is working.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually had an exercise I did when ChatGPT was first coming on the scene, what,
Yeah,
18
yeah.
months ago or so, where I uploaded the brief into ChatGPT and see if it would recreate a plan similar to what we put together. And it was
Okay.
actually probably about 85% similar
On
to
point.
what
That's
we
pretty
did.
good.
And I was like, oh, cool. So from a planning perspective, its logic is reasonable and you can understand a lot of the key differentiators between our clients' needs are and what we're trying to achieve. But again, it's only as good as the data you give it, right? So you have to make sure that you're supplying it clear and concise data because on the flip side of that, I've tried to stack different reports together
Yeah,
if it could pull information from it, and it kind of
yeah.
goes into full hallucination mode where it's like making
Yeah.
up numbers or it's kind of drawing the wrong conclusions about certain creatives and things like that. So you definitely can't rely on it 100%. You still
Oh,
need to bring your
never. Yes.
expertise into it, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to present information that's wrong and easily
Mm-hmm.
identified as wrong before you said you ran this many impressions. Now you're saying this, what's going on, and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. So Really just kind of for bouncing ideas off of what you're already thinking or seeing how you can maybe plus up or adapt in certain areas or using it to maybe get you started on a tech or something like that. But
Mhm.
it's definitely something that needs a lot of human intervention still.
Oh, yeah, sure. And I like what you said about being able to, maybe it was 85% right. Now you have maybe 50% of that time back in your day, right? Because I'm not going to call it 85, I'm going to say between 50 to 85% of that time back to do other things, to
Yep.
correct it and move on to the next task, or really spend more time for quality insight making or recommendation or new plans or whatnot. So I like that you guys are using or you're using ChatGPT, because why not? And
Hmm.
then that you realize that, oh, you still got to verify the verification.
Yep.
Simply said, I like to ask Ari, because that's my girl, that's my ChatGPT. I like to ask her, can you show me your source? And then she'll add the link. That's a nice way to make sure that, oh, is this
Yeah,
copying word for word this strategy or from this blog found from
that's
this
funny.
competitor site? So that's a
Yep.
good way for you all to filter that out. But also, once you find that prompt that works, that you verified,
Hmm.
most of the time after that, if you ask the same prompt, then there are certain behaviors that continue in the right direction, if you know what I mean. So you might see less and less hallucination, at least in my experience with my chat GPT girl. The
Yep.
more I ask the same prompt and you said you feed the right stuff to her, it gives me more and more a clearer picture.
Yeah. You make me
So
feel like I need to actually give a name to my chat GPT
you
because
need to
I'm like,
ask your
I've never
boo,
even known what to
ask
name
ChatGPT,
it.
what should I name you? What should I call? What should you go by? And then
Try
it'll
it.
literally tell you, call me this, because it's basically naming your vibe. So Ari, as she gave me the meaning behind the word, and she told me it's
Mm.
because your energy matches this. And so my name is Ari. And I was like, oh,
She told you what she thinks that she thought you would want to call her.
precisely, I think. But
It seems like you like it. So,
you should. I have a friend, she has her ChatGPT named something, and then she has her, because she doesn't, she's one of those weird people that don't have iPhones. They have
mm,
the other ones, the non-iPhone brand.
Android, yep.
And she named her Google Voice something. And
Hmm.
she's like, that's my boo, because it sounds like it's like a voice from a gentleman that maybe has a beard. It's a really deep voice
Gotcha.
of her Google Voice. And so
Her
she's like, that's,
iPad is fun.
she talks to him about different things, like personal topics. And then her ChatGPT is all professional. But anyway, ChatGPT is taking over. AI is taking over.
I
Well,
love the
that's
AI
good.
conversation. I would like to ask you, have you been using AI recently? There's been a lot of talk about agentic AI, how that's going to come into play. And I know that there are some DSPs that have already started using
Mhm.
agentic AI to streamline some updates, that they're going for efficiencies with budgets or making creative changes instead of going into each and every account to make that change. It
Mhm.
allows them to just have it across the board, or if landing page goes down or something like that, it'll pause it and things like
Immediately
that. Yep.
substance pop in. So thank you for asking, because so I work on the Infillion platform, which is Media Math,
Hmm.
powered by Media Math and other ad tech products, right? So we have a footfall measurement tool, whatnot.
Hmm.
We launched this agentic AI thing. It's called the Agent Connector,
Uh-huh.
where whoever is using Media Math and spending in Media Math, because you have to have some data, can use it. It's like a chat GPT looking window. And you can ask the questions that you just mentioned. Like, oh, pull some highlights from this, put some optimization. You know what? I'll put some screenshot of it here too. But
Hmm.
for my viewers on YouTube. But yes, we realized that when we talk to traders, the number one thing they say is, I don't have enough time to do it all, but I'm responsible and expected to do it all.
Yep.
Usually the trader spends a lot of time setting up, troubleshooting here and there, being on calls because they're the SME within the company or within the agency or within the team. And so there's not enough time for them to do deep work, which involves optimizing on the deeper level. Let me really dive into this data and see what's up. And
Yep.
so having an agent, what we do is trimming some of that. I don't have enough time. Pull this report for me. I want to be able to answer those specific questions. Boom, it does it for you. Or you just tell them to tell me the insight and then you go verify on your own. So there's different ways for you to use that agentic DSP side. Now I'm referring to Media Math because that's what I see every day. My consultancy side, I'm not buying media. I don't know how to use that. I just know that I have friends who, again, have those prompts laid out for their ChatGPT. They'll upload a specific piece of the Excel sheet, so not too much because there's only so much it can do, and then ask those specific prompts and then get started from there. So ChatGPT is not analyzing the whole thing. It just gets them started, rearrange this data that I can see this, or what are the trends that you see? And then you go verify on your own. On the Infillion side, on the media math side, you actually have it right then and there. There's another thing too, talking about planning, that I think is super cool, is that once your campaign is running, you have some insight, you can ask the agent to build a new plan based on this data or based on the previous campaign. And if you go and add the details of the plan into your integrated media plan, you go sell it, this client says yes, then you can tell the agent, oh, this plan, can you set it up? And then it will be set up on the back end for you. And then you go and turn it on your own. You can activate stuff like that. So now the agency that my client agencies, that their traders spend less time on setting up. Sometimes it's the beginning of the month. Sometimes you have 12 of them to set up. And then it's the beginning of the month and it was the end of the month. That means you have to do reports for the previous 12 ones. And so all of them are due by the 5th. This one is due by the 1st. So you save time here to reallocate here. But it doesn't mean that you start firing your traders and your planners. Absolutely not. Because you still need that person. I still need Dominique to come back and say, well, you know what? He suggested, let me not use the same vendor. He suggested to use, I don't know, OpenX. We did use them for this particular brand, but it did not work here, but it did work for this other one, let's say, just for the sake of the example. Again, y'all don't LinkedIn DM me about this. This is just an example. So you, Dominic, know that using this particular partner makes sense, but because you have your experience that the agent doesn't have, you can say, you know what, I'm a mid OpenX and maybe add, I don't know, somebody else, right? A Colossus or whatever it is.
You definitely still need that human element to it.
Absolutely.
I tell people all the time, I mean, just like when the internet came on the scene, a lot of jobs, it was really enhanced. You know what I mean? It just freed up more time. It made it more efficient. Same thing with AI, agentic AI. I'm looking forward to the day where I can have an AI agent pretty much come through my emails and give me a synopsis of what's important, what I need to,
Oh,
go and do and things like that. So
mhm.
I know a lot of people are really starting to lean into that technology, and I look forward to it because I would love to take my first hour of the morning where I used to go through emails and catch up on the trades, just to cut that in half or even more, just by having an agent summarize it for me, give me the key highlights, tell me what's important, and then everything else, just putting it in its proper timeline order when it can be addressed. So help in the long term, I believe, that especially the way things are set up in the industry now, I don't foresee it taking over jobs anytime soon. But
No, and the
I
people
think
that are
that
thinking this way, I think are missing the whole point of the beauty of utilizing AI in your day-to-day, right?
yeah,
So I'm very concerned that we're going in the direction where AI are going to remove those mundane work, so much so that the next wave of juniors will not be able to set up those basic or understand the fundamentals that comes with a job and skip this very important piece, experience, and get straight into strategy. But they don't understand that sometimes when you're setting up an in-app deal, it has to be separate from a mobile web deal, because that's how it's set up in the MediaMath DSP and any other DSP. And that's how it provides a clean reporting. And that's how you can easily compare these two. And usually there's two different audiences, even though it's mobile web and mobile in-app is still two different. Those little fundamental things that the next wave of juniors is not going to fail doing like we did, because AI took care of those day to day. But then
people like you, so it doesn't happen that they always have a resource to go to learn those things.
yeah, and that's why I'm like, if we are going to get rid of those mundane stuff, which I hated it as a trader, then we need to find a way to still transfer that knowledge to this new junior, because the junior that you have today is going to be manager 6 months from now, to be very honest, depending on this industry. Next year, in the next 3 years, they're going to be AD, associate directors. In the next 5 years, they're going to be the next VPs. That's how fast our career are moving these days, right? Especially in ad tech. with the right opportunities, that is. And so you can't get like that if you don't,
Have
you
the
know what I mean? Like,
history, the knowledge, that deep insight. I kind of think about it sometimes back in school when your teacher used to tell you you're not going to have your calculator in your pocket all the time and you got to learn
oh
it.
my God.
But then now it's like
Yeah.
my calculator is in my pocket all the time. So it's like some of that is definitely going to be there, but I think that people like you and others are going to fill that gap where we're going to recognize that, hey, there's still some fundamental things you're going to need to know because that's going to start to be the thing that separates the good from the great. You have that fundamental knowledge, know how to troubleshoot the issue beyond just asking ChatGPT or whatever the next program is how to fix it. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
those are going to be the things that separate the good from the great. And people, just like today, if you still know how to write out your math formulas and things like that, you're at a better advantage than someone who uses their phone. So,
Okay. Solve for X, definitely. That makes good sense. And about the calculator on the phone, our teachers used to say that to us all the time.
yeah.
And now, Dominique, I was driving the other day. I did not remember if I was 36 or 37 years old. And I asked my girl Siri, I was like, Siri, how old am I if I was born in 1989? She was like, you're 36, turning 37 in 2026. I was like, I guess I'm 36 still. Those little things. But back in the days, I would have had to be like 2025 minus 1989, 36 point
And you
something.
still know how to do that if you needed to.
I know that I knew the formula, but oh man, there's so many more questions I want to ask. But just so you, AI is our friend. From a manager perspective, from a leader perspective, you want to pay attention. You want to get educated. If I can throw a shout out here in these streets, U of Digital has this AI certification. I took it last year. It's phenomenal. It's 4 courses now. It's really good. It breaks down what type of AI you may need for what type of roles or how to automate some things, but also it really defines it. Claude is really good for this. ChatGPT is really good for that. You know what I mean? And so I predominantly only use ChatGPT, but once in a while I'll do the Google LLM and things like that, the note taker or the notebook. So check out Shiv, Miles, and then the U of Digital certification, but continue educating yourself. Just like programmatic, there's a time where we used to say the bigger the better. Now we're like, no, if it's a big data, you want to run away. You know what I mean? So the industry is shifting. There's always an update. So don't stop learning something. And definitely don't put all your eggs in one basket. I'm talking to this special DSP that just wants to fire all traders because they now have AI. And no, that's not Minimath. I'm talking about another DSP. But so whatever you want to do, but we're going to keep our traders because we know.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this, Dominic. Let's wrap it up here. First of all, Dominic is going to be back on the podcast because we just have so many more questions for him. We are also talking about doing a live workshop together. So if you're on my newsletter or if you're not on like the workshop waitlist, make sure you are on there so you can join us because he's already teaching us a lot. So I can't imagine what he'll teach us on a real workshop.
Looking forward to it.
But maybe leave me with a word of wisdom before we close the podcast.
Sure.
What is something you wish you knew as a freshman starting in the industry that you now know? What would you tell your freshman self starting in the industry?
Probably that you are your greatest resource. You're only going to know as much as you put into it. So don't expect someone else to come in and have the same ambition and enthusiasm for
That's
you
good.
yourself. So I used to
I
think
love that.
that teacher would emerge. It's like, okay, this is how you, let me show you the ropes and things like that. But a lot of
Yeah.
times it was just really like trial by fire, figure it out. You just really prioritizing being resourceful because the information's out there. You can definitely find the solution. You just have to be proactive in seeking that. So I think I spent a couple times just bumping my head.
Fell fast,
Somebody
fell
else,
good. Learn, keep
tell me
going.
how to do it or something like that, where I could have definitely progressed faster if I just had that mentality of
Yeah,
just go
yeah,
answer yourself, things like that. So
yeah.
always be learning, be resourceful, and just ultimately stay curious. Just like I said, it's always changing, always evolving. As soon as you get complacent, you're already a step behind.
That's literally my signature in my email. Stay curious, because
Uh,
this is
but
exactly
that's what I
what we're
saw.
doing.
It's in there.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Dominic, thank you so much for stopping by. This was such a gem. I'm super grateful that you make the time. If anybody wants to get in touch with you, can they reach out to you on LinkedIn? Can I share your
Absolutely.
email, your cell phone number, address?
Yes, I'm very active on LinkedIn. That would be the
Perfect.
preferred one. I do not share out my cell phone number, but
I was kidding. No, no.
email is
Catch him on
perfectly fine.
LinkedIn. Don't be cray. Just catch this guy on LinkedIn. But thank you again, and then have a wonderful rest of your day.
All right, you too. Thank you.